not sure how many people are going to get through this video because it's going to be a long one. It's the eve of Holocaust Memorial Day. I am in Tel Aviv. Just got back from a trip where I was in the States, in Canada. I was in Frankfurt. Outside, it's so quiet. No taxis, no buses, no restaurants, no shops, no bars, nothing open. You might hear an ambulance as I'm near the hospital. But it's quiet as we all remember approximately 6 million Jewish individuals, family members, who were not killed, but were systematically targeted and murdered by Nazi Germany. I don't want to talk so much about the Nazis. I want to talk about why so many Jewish people are scared, and I hope that Jewish people share this video with their friends. I'm going to try and express what I feel and what I've seen on the ground lately. And I'm saying this to also my non-Jewish friends who are continuing with their everyday lives and might be wondering why we're making so much noise and why we're so concerned about what's going on. The Holocaust didn't just happen suddenly. The Holocaust happened when Germans, everyday Germans, who were not Nazis, remained silent in the face of hatred. They were fooled into thinking that the Jewish people are or were something that we weren't and are not. And the indoctrination of hate began many, many years before the Second World War. The indoctrination of hate began with Hitler Youth many years before the Nazi Germans came to power. That hatred was spread. It got to the point where even the children who were taking part in Hitler Youth programs would turn in and report on their parents for doing things that were deemed unacceptable to the Nazi party. They would turn Jews in. They would turn their parents in for being friends with Jews. It was absolute pure hatred. And the reason why Nazi Germany came to power was because no one really said anything. And the people that did say that something bad was happening, not just against the Jews, but in general, they were letting hatred thrive because they were silent. And that's what I want to talk about. When we say the silence is deafening, as you eat your cereal or go to work or scroll through social media, although some people are speaking up, it's relatively quiet, and you only need to look at what happened on American campuses recently and what's still going on. The silence in the face of pure hatred is what brought about the Holocaust, but it also brought about so many millions upon millions of dead people because of war. Because a hatred machine was out there. A machine, a systematic machine, with a plan, with an agenda, with funding, with great communications, and applying visceral propaganda to build hatred and intolerance, very much like what you saw on campuses. You know, the American kids weren't just brainwashed. There was a plan, and there is a plan, and it's documented that this hatred is being funded, and it is attacking the Jewish people. It is disguised as, it's kind of like hate but disguised as peace. And I've said that before. They want the Palestinians to be free, but they're using hatred. That should concern everyone. That should concern every single non-Jewish person listening to this right now, because your kids are going to these schools. And in 10 years' time, these kids are going to be on the road to being leaders in places of work, in politics, places of influence. This hatred is something that you need to be speaking up against, because it's the hatred that went unnoticed by so many people who were too lazy to do anything about it, or too weak, or too scared because of what other people might think of them. That hatred grew and grew and grew until it became so powerful that it became the power. And when it became the power, well, you couldn't speak up against it anymore, because then you could be killed. You could be ostracized from your community, from your society, as many Germans were who spoke up too late. That leads to killing. It leads to hatred, which is manifesting itself in violence, which can then become a Holocaust against us, and the taking away of your freedom against you. So on this eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day here in Israel, I want you to think about that. Think about what it is that you can do to speak up against hatred, because this is not about Israel and Palestine. The Palestinian cause, and you're listening to someone who has never voted for a right-wing government, never voted for Netanyahu, who's been, demonstrating against the Netanyahu government, by the way, for up until October 7th. I've worked with Leonard Cohen on a peace initiative. I've mentored Palestinian students. And I voted for Rabin and Peres. Okay? Now, a lot of people, Jewish and Israeli people won't like that I'm saying that. I don't care. My heart is for peace. But there is no peace to be had with people who hate you, and with people who are in kind of brainwashing their children to continue to hate generation after generation, and who want Israel gone. There is no talking peace with these people on the college campuses who are basically advocating hatred and intolerance and hoping that you won't fall for it. So take it from someone like me. The silence, it's very difficult to say, October 7th was so traumatic. It was a Holocaust for us, because people weren't just killed. The way that they were killed, the way that they were targeted. This wasn't a wartime situation. This was a massacre. And it was a message. And it was heard loud and clear. So I don't want to say that the silence is worse than October 7th, but the silence could lead to things that are worse than October 7th. And I say that with so much respect to everyone who's suffering from loss of October 7th. And it could lead to something also worse than the Holocaust itself. Could. When we say it takes a village, we're not just talking about the Jewish community. It takes a village, the world community, to speak up against this hatred driven by radical Islam that is brainwashing Western civilization and the youth of Western civilization, very much like what Hitler's party did to the youth of Germany. You can do something about it, or you can just sit back and let it happen. It's your choice.